Our kids have flown the nest. Francis is teaching in Senegal, and Robert is a counselor in Chicago. But I am very sorry that Elizabeth could not make it today. She is at a church actually in Orlando, Florida. And I will be flying there tomorrow, and then we leave to go back to Madagascar on the 29th. So we're right at the tail end of a period of visiting churches here in the United States. Madagascar is that great big island off the southeast coast of Africa. It's about the size of Texas, 1,000 miles long. It is the land of lemurs, and there are big ones, and there are small ones, and they come in many shapes and colors. And there are other amazing critters like the street tenrec with its crown of thorns. And there are about over 100 different species of chameleons. And my favorite is the one with the purple nose. The tree, and of course, the gecko gecko comes from Madagascar. The plants and trees are equally amazing. Madagascar is famous as being the center of diversity for baobabs. There are 8 species in the world, and 6 of those are found naturally only in Madagascar. But there are plenty of other amazing and beautiful trees. We have trees with fruits the size of basketballs. We have 3 different plants that have seeds that are half red and half black. We have the propagate tree that has beautiful flowers and leaves used as shampoo, but the fruits are just plain downright mean with those hooks. If those fruits get on you, they you lose blood getting them off. The people of Madagascar are mostly subsistence farmers. And this means that they spend most of their efforts trying to grow the food that they need to eat, and that they hope to be able to grow enough and to have some left over to buy necessities. The major crop is rice. And most of the labor that goes into growing rice is by hand, whether it's transplanting rice, as we see here, or harvesting and threshing rice, as you see here. And boys and girls, even at a very young age, start helping their parents deal with rice. Madagascar is blessed with earth that is very good for making houses. In a lot of places, it's made into bricks, and the houses are made of bricks. But in some parts of Madagascar, like here, they make the houses out of mud, 2-story houses out of mud. And of course, they have to mix the mud and throw the mud, and then they build these very expertly made but thick walls of these 2-story mud houses. The culture is very rich, but life is also full of much hardship. Only about half the people in Madagascar have a good source of safe drinking water. The Global Hunger Index for 2023 found that only 9 countries were considered in the alarming category for hunger. And Madagascar is one of those 9, the second worst for countries they could get a score for. But you wouldn't know it looking at the smiles on people's faces. The population of Madagascar is now over 30 million, and it is going up rapidly. And that puts pressure on available land for growing crops. It puts pressure on the forest. It puts pressure on the need for new school buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, a lot of the crops are grown using slash and burn agriculture, so that people who are simply looking to get food to eat, it also results in deforestation. So just by eating a banana, you can contribute to deforestation in Madagascar. And Madagascar is one of the countries most vulnerable to climate change. And the way that this really affects the forest is that with warmer temperatures, you have storms, cyclones that are both stronger and more numerous. They mess up people's lives, destroy houses, destroy crops, and people who need to find food and rebuild their houses, they often turn to the forest and cut down trees to make charcoal to sell, or go off and do slash and burn agriculture to be able to sell corn as a commercial crop. As Presbyterians, we do mission in partnership, and Peace USA's partner denomination is the Fiangonite du Christi et du Madagascar, the Church of Jesus Christ in Madagascar, known by its Malagasy acronym FKJM. The FKJM is the largest Protestant church in Madagascar, with somewhere around 7,000 churches, about 6 million members, but only about 1,800 pastors. So lay people preach more sermons in Madagascar in FKJM churches than the pastors do. They had their last General Assembly in 2021. And the FKJM is sees being what it means to be Christian in a very holistic way. As Christians and as a church, they see that we should be sharing the gospel, but also looking after people's physical needs and taking care of the environment. And at that last General Assembly, the FKJM decided that it would put all its efforts in these domains under the term Kazakamasana. Can you say that? Kazakamasana. And that means holy race. Up at the top it says, Miurena Tsara Azamuva. Stand up straight, don't move. From 1 Corinthians 15:58. Below that it says, Buntusi Pila Samsara Madagascar, Pila Samsara Manuva Nitamta. Spread the gospel throughout Madagascar, the gospel that changes history. And so they see the gospel as transformative in people's individual lives, and as individuals are transformed, that families should be transformed, the churches should be transformed, the community should be transformed, and the spreading of the gospel should result in transformation in the whole country. So all these efforts are called the Hazakazakabasana, and a lot of that effort is put into their schools. The FKJM has about 700 schools, mostly primary, some middle schools, but then also high schools. And they challenge every one of their 37 synods in Madagascar to start at least one new school during this period. This particular school is in the far south of Madagascar and had the best results on standardized national exams for the past 2 years. My work is with the FKJM's Fruits, Vegetables, and Environmental Education program. And most of the work, just like the title says, we help people grow fruits, vegetables, and we do environmental education mostly by growing native trees on the grounds of schools and churches. At that General Assembly meeting, as part of the Hazakazakamasana, the FKJM decided that every church should become a green church. They decided that all Christians should be encouraged to plant fruit trees, and they decided that the work of the Fruits, Vegetables, and Environmental Education program should be spread to all of the synods of the FKJM. We do a lot of training, both of seminary students, university students, a lot of farmers, as well as pastors, church members, and evangelists. I work with some incredible colleagues. Lubasu Raheli Harnalana is our personnel manager and finance manager. Laura Valcarson is the head technician. I'm able to go and spend 6 months in the States because they're running everything, and they will continue to run things after I'm gone. Germain Andre Bousson is our head plant propagator. He's probably grafted more kinds of fruit trees than anyone else in Madagascar. Here he is training seminary students. Every year we help the FKJM with its reforestation efforts. These are planting fast-growing trees because people need the firewood. We do a lot of planting trees at schools. This was at the new, new teachers training college that was inaugurated this past October, and that's a native palm planted there on school grounds. This is at a combination church and school. It's like how we like to do it, where we have a tree planting day, where the kids come together with their parents and their teachers, and we all have a good time and plant lots of trees. Another way we do it is we get invited to a continuing education event for school teachers. This was a whole FKJM school district. And so we came with a vehicle full of native trees and fruit trees. We did training. We planted a tree on the grounds where the training occurred. And then we gave everybody fruit trees and native trees to take back and plant at their schools. To plant native trees, we have to have the native trees. So we collect native trees, kind of like some people collect stamps and coins. We collect trees and we evaluate them. And these are just some of the ones that we figured out that passed the test that we propagate for planting at churches and schools. We do plant a lot of native palms at schools. And as part of this developing collections, one of our palms planted at the Ranomafana Arboretum, it grew up, and when it flowered, we realized it was a new species, and we just named it. It got named after this man, Rasabutsi Francois. This is now known as Mashwala Rasabutsii. And it's an honor to collaborate with the Malagasy botanist to name that as a new species. It's only known from this single tree, so it's very vulnerable to extinction until we can get seeds and get more growing. For gardening, this is our garden that is front and center on the main seminary campus on the north side of Antananarivo and part of our orchard. And this is, you might call it a teaching garden. We do a course, a practical course in growing fruits and vegetables, where the seminary students and their spouses learn to grow vegetables. They grow some in the community garden and some on their own, and they take seeds with them. And we provide internships for spouses of seminary students. This year they have 80 students there, more than ever before. When students graduate, we send them actually with a piece of paper that says good for a dozen fruit trees. And then they gradually come back and take their trees. This pastor, Pastor Clara Ranuru Suahantra, has come back twice to get trees. And we told the Secretary General that we would provide free trees for 50 churches a year. And as I tell people in Malagasy, our problem is we don't know how to count. Any church, any school that comes asking for trees to plant on their grounds, we provide them for free. Our biggest success in helping farmers grow fruit trees was with tangerines. It started back in 2010 in a community. And then fast forward, and now people are producing tangerine trees, getting an average of somewhere around 80 kilos a tree. They do it, then you cut that in half because they produce one year and then not so much the next. But that is good money. A young person in this community put some pictures on Facebook, and next thing you know, the trucks started coming and buying. The owner of this orchard, he told me, he said the first time a truck came and someone offered him one price for all his tangerine, he said, "Excuse me." And he went and he set off and he just trembled because he never had that kind of money before in his life. The problem, though, with these tangerines is they require irrigation. And so we've been looking for other places to do this, and they've been hard to find. So we started looking, we asked ourselves, what fruit has more potential for helping people than tangerine? And we realized that the mango is that fruit. And that's because mangoes do well where soils are relatively poor and where there is a long dry season. Mangoes need that dry season to promote flowering. And so mangoes can do well in most of northern, western, and almost all of southern Madagascar. So we sort of switched our focus to mangoes, and this is our basic equation, that if you can, we can help people get good varieties of mangoes, and then help people to be able to graft them and propagate them themselves, then that should offer a path to getting out of poverty. So we have been, my colleagues and I have been setting up fruit centers, which are basically nurseries where we can also do training. And the northern two and the southern two focus mostly on mangoes, with the biggest one being the Mango Palace, about 4.5 hours northwest of the capital city. There's the Mango Palace there. We've got a big nursery on the lower right. There are orchards all around the place, more than you can see here. And those buildings provide facilities where we can host people who come for trainings. We sort of have electricity because we have a generator we can turn on when we do trainings, but we do not have a tractor. So we rent out oxen when we need to plow. We planted our first mangoes there in January 7 years ago, 2017. They're starting to get big and they're starting to produce. This was taken from fruits produced there. In this picture, we have some of the best varieties from India and Florida and Australia and Thailand and the Caribbean, Haiti, with that Julie mango down there. This is our latest building that's just been finished since I've been in the United States. It's right on the main road to northern Madagascar. We'll be putting in a nursery in this area, a retail nursery, because the Mango Palace needs to be sustainable. So we need to be selling trees, we need to be selling fruits, we need to be charging people to come visit, and that is an ongoing process. Probably I get to do some of the landscaping with some of our best native trees and fruit trees around this building. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is our northernmost nursery, which was officially inaugurated this past month. It's right on the road that goes to Mandritsara. And surprise to me, they put out their own Facebook page, and that's the header on their Facebook page, and that's the nursery manager there, Ed Mulren, who is a graduate from in agronomy from the new FKJM University. He's demonstrating how to do an approach graft of mango in that picture there. This is our nursery at Tionana, not too far from the capital city. It's probably maybe our best nursery in terms of producing large numbers of good quality, uniform fruit trees of various types, including grafted avocados, jaboticabas, peaches, nectarines, and citrus. We do a lot of training. We do internships, provide internships for the agronomy students of several campuses of the FKJM University, as well as for any other students who come to us asking for internships. We do lots of work with farmers. Some of this work has been supported by the Presbyterian Hunger Program. One of these people got interviewed for national television and reported, she said, I received a lot of benefits from the training because I did the graft. My hands made the graft. But before, when I did training, the technician did it and said, that is how it is done. But here, it was me who did it. And when people come and do trainings, everybody except the university students takes trees home. So they come, they learn how to grow trees, how to graft trees, and then they take trees home so they can grow their own and graft their own. And some of the early people who got trees from us, those trees are already starting to get big and starting to produce fruits and starting to make a difference in their lives. We also collaborate with the Missouri Botanical Garden and other conservation groups to apply our expertise in fruit growing to help conserve, protect some reserves in eastern Madagascar. This was on a boat ride to a place called the Buibe Forest. And this boat ride was about 8 hours And then we had 6 hours to hike after this. This is in an area that is so remote that children don't see cars until they're big enough and strong enough to hike 11 hours to get to a road where cars are. And that work is in the hands of these 3 young guys who are the most enthusiastic among the group for grafting. That's a grafted citrus in front of them. These guys didn't get out of high school, so they can sure graft. My colleagues and I are incredibly optimistic and enthusiastic about the work that we do. We feel that we're starting to help a lot of people be able to move in the direction of getting out of poverty. We're particularly excited about some new young college graduates who are now part of our program and will be our successors in the program. We do worry, though, that the needs in Madagascar are so great, it sometimes seems that our efforts are just a drop in the bucket. Elizabeth has a master's in public health and is a nurse, and she works with the FKJM Health Ministries, both the development department's 30 or so dispensaries, and also with the FKJM's HIV/AIDS committee, which is now expanded with the decision at that last General Assembly to include epidemics, including COVID. And so a lot of what they do is take advantage of church events to help put out preventive messages, to help people prevent getting diseases, to help people avoid needing to go to the hospital in the first place. She works with Dr. Ranomafana, who is head of the FKJM Development Department's health program. Some of the problems are very basic, but really bad, that too many women die from complications related to pregnancy and childbirth, and child mortality is very high, and a lot of it is from very preventable or treatable diseases like malaria, diarrhea, and malnutrition. These 30 dispensaries are spread mostly in rural areas. There's usually a dispensary downstairs, place to live upstairs. And they do treat basic illnesses, but they also do a lot of preventive work like weighing babies, monitoring blood pressure, things like that. And they treat malaria, in this case, a kid with malaria who came from a couple hours away. And having these church dispensaries means that people don't have to go near as far as they otherwise would to get health care. They recently got a program focused on blood pressure because problems related to blood pressure are going up, and it's a need for people to be aware. Elizabeth really likes working with youth peer educators where they train middle school and high school kids. It's basically helping them develop the life skills they need to make good choices to stay on a good path. You'll see on the right there how those 2 young ladies are telling those delinquent young men that their smoking they're doing is not good. That's a skit where they're practicing how to relate to their peers. And Elizabeth was tickled to death when we were at a graduation for teachers in July, and someone came up to her and said, "Hey, do you remember me? I was one of these youth peer educators. I just graduated as a teacher." In the HIV/AIDS committee work, she worked with Mr. Ranomafana on the right of the screen there. And they do a lot of testing for HIV at major church events. And that also involves a lot of preventive efforts of getting out, giving people information, et cetera. With COVID, they also have brochures and information. And getting people to get vaccinated has been a hard sell. It's been remarkably similar to the situation in this country. There's all kinds of rumors going around. And so it's been very difficult, but the church is sort of coming around, and the HIV/AIDS committee is collaborating with the government, who has come here to do the vaccines. So they're gradually making progress with that. She and her colleagues teach at the seminary, like I do with my colleagues, about the areas they cover. And with HIV, they really do a lot of preventive work of helping people get tested. The problem has been that the rate of HIV infection has been so low that hardly anybody knows anybody who died from the disease or has been affected. So it's almost like people don't believe that HIV is a problem. Then this past December, a research article came out where some people were looking at projected using a model how the disease is expected to progress in Madagascar. What had happened was that the prevalency in the general population was incredibly low, like less than 3% for many, many years, but then it had started to spike in vulnerable populations, especially sex workers. So these researchers said that within the next year, that the rate of infection in the general population in large cities like Antananarivo, seen here, could go up close to 30% within the next 10 years, over 70% in sex workers. So this is extremely alarming. The data they use for their research is less than would be desirable, but this is really a red flag. Elizabeth, one of the big advantages with the FKJMs is the leadership has really been adopted a really helpful position. This is a picture of the president of the FKJM, Pastor Yurku Andriamahajusu Ami, getting tested for HIV. He did that in 2018 and agreed for his picture to be used for publicity to encourage others to get tested. So that is really almost revolutionary in terms of church leaders doing that. So Elizabeth is thinking they're getting ready to have their board meeting. I think it's in a week or two, that they will likely look to work more with the women of the church. The women of the church in Madagascar, sort of like here, they tend to be quite well organized and have major events. So it's good opportunities for spreading messages. And so that's how they expect to operate going forward, but they're really going to need to step it up because of the likelihood of AIDS become a very devastating disease like it has been in other parts of the world. So there are lots of challenges for the health work and for the church in terms of helping people to stay healthy and to be able to be healthy, keep their kids healthy so they can progress well in life. Now, just briefly, I want to go to southern Madagascar. Between 2016 and 2021, there was major drought in the far south of Madagascar, and a lot of people died. People went months without eating anything except cactus fruits. That picture of the dry riverbed was taken right there at Siumbeg, where that little clip is at the bottom. And there's very inspirational ministry going on in the far south of Madagascar, led by Senate President Sudza Artur in the middle of the three there. He works in one of the most difficult places to work in the world, yet he always has a smile on his face. And he is a firm believer in the holistic role of ministry. This is a church being built in the background, and here on the side is a water reservoir to collect the water off the roof to help people get drinking water. This was taken just about 10 days ago. There was a cyclone that wasn't very bad that went through southern Madagascar and dumped some much needed water. And with the funds from the Presbyterian Hunger Program, we were able to get out seeds. And he distributed on this day, he distributed 5 kilos of seeds to each of 600 people in this community. Those are seeds in those bags. A lot of the ministry in southern Madagascar is focused on getting water. There you see one of those water reservoirs hooked up to the roof. And this was a distribution day when everybody's got their jugs lined up to get that drinking water. We've also, with Presbyterian Hunger Program, bought oxen and carts so they can get water where it is and take it to where it is needed. The school program, Pastor Sudza I said they're supposed to do one new school during this 4 year. He's already done 5 new schools. And he's done it in some of the most remote and actually dangerous places to go. And Peace USA has been helping with this. Peace USA sources have helped build 4 new school buildings this past year, each one with 3 classrooms. There's actually a new school building on the other side of this building because the kids are progressing and they need to keep up the construction. Pastor Souza will tell you, though, you don't absolutely have to have a school building. What you do need to have is teachers. The kids will come. You can borrow a building from a church or somewhere. It won't be so great, but you can get by for a little bit without even a school building. He started, I think, 5 new schools, and they're just now starting to get the buildings built. He also started a program to get teachers. He did this by getting high school graduates who want to become teachers and giving them scholarships to study at the FKJM's teacher training college in the capital city. So they come, they study for 3 years, and then go back to the South to teach. The first one of those students graduated in July and is now teaching at the high school where he graduated from. There are now 6 more of those who will graduate this year. Then they didn't have any teachers for the next year, and now they've started 3 new teacher trainees from the South and 3 from the West as part of that program. To conclude, please pray for Madagascar. Please pray for the FKJM, its leaders, and its ministries. Please pray for the people. Please also consider joining the Madagascar Mission Network. This is a network of individuals and congregations that there are presentations. There was a presentation on education, the FKJM's education program a few months ago. We also had a joint worship service with the FKJM. And this was the last time we got together. Now our meetings are virtual, so you don't have to leave your home to take part. Consider sponsoring a student. The FKJM school director has calculated it's about $100 a month to sponsor a teacher, something very feasible for women's groups or church congregations or whatever to help these students make a big difference in the South where they come from. Please come visit. We don't get many visitors. We're happy to have you. We live right next to the airport. Please come visit. It'd be great if somebody from your congregations could come over. And I just want to thank you very much for supporting Elizabeth and I as mission co-workers, for supporting the ministries of the FKJM, especially now as they run the Hazakazakamasana, the holy race set before them. So as they say in Malagasy, Misotra Bezagatunko, thank you very much. And before I forget, I want to give you this rice runner that shows all the stages of growing rice, from planting the seeds and transplanting all the way up to eating it down here on the far left. Where's the pastor here? There we go.
So are there questions? And Dan, why don't you, if you could just give the main idea of the questions so everybody can hear. Question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious about FKJM. It's how it fits in with the larger picture in Madagascar of religious practices. You know, looks like it's a kind of a powerhouse, is it, or is there a big regular evangelical movement also? That's
yes, and yes, and yes. The question was, you'd like to know more about the FKJM and how it fits in with other churches and religious groups in Madagascar.
Yeah.
So the FJKM has its roots in three mission efforts of the London Missionary Society, the French Protestant Mission, and the British Quakers. They came together and formed the FJKM officially in 1968. And they are the largest Protestant church in Madagascar by far, with the next largest being the Malagasy Lutheran Church. The largest Christian church and the largest church in Madagascar is the Roman Catholic Church. And years ago, they didn't get along, but just like pretty much everywhere else in the world, they've learned to get along quite well, and there's a whole lot of collaboration between them. There is a Malagasy Christian Council of Churches that encompasses the Catholics, the FJKM, the Lutheran, and the Anglican churches all together. And they bring what weight they have to try to help the country out, especially in times of political strife, etc. And so there is a lot of cohesion and getting along, and there's maybe 50% Muslim in the country. And there's this background of native religion that's sort of everywhere, if that maybe answers that. Yes, sir.
One of your early slides was a pretty dramatic indication of the population growth over the years. Is that creating a huge problem, or is there still plenty of room, or particularly in view of the medical issues you were brought up?
So the slide on the population showing the population going up quite dramatically and how big of a problem is that? And the reality is that there is a lot of fairly open land in Madagascar, so there is a lot of land still, but despite that, it is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in terms of especially areas available for growing rice are limited in the valley bottoms. It's a problem in terms of deforestation, which is already very high, and with more people, it's likely to be higher. It's a problem for schools, where they need new school buildings because there are lots of kids all the time. So yes, huge problems with the growth related to the growth, high growth of the population. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you are talking about planting trees and increasing production. How about the merchandising and the distribution and earning for the people?
You mean for the fruits?
Yes.
Okay, she's asking about the commercialization of fruits produced that we're helping people do. The local markets, we feel, are far from saturated. So taking fruits from the countryside and then moving them to the cities, that there are good markets for fruits. So we're not worried about anything beyond that right now. We're not worried about trying to export. We will be looking at processing fruits later on, but right now is selling fresh fruits in the larger cities is what we're aimed at. Yes, sir.
Could you let us know about your funding that you've received and how that is structured, where it's from, how you're doing?
Okay, question about funding and how it works. Elizabeth and I are mission co-workers, and so we receive our funding through World Mission in Louisville. Now there is a general account that's available that serves not just us, but all mission co-workers together. But you can put it in honor of the mission co-worker that you want to put it in honor of. And then the mission co-worker gets the list of those people so we can thank you and relate to you. Beyond that, for projects, there are what's called extra commitment opportunity accounts. And there is one that is uniquely for fruit and environment work in Madagascar. And there's another one for health work in Madagascar. So through the Presbyterian Church USA, the checks can be sent and designated for those accounts. And then the way it works is that the Secretary General or the head finance officer of the FKJM Church writes a request for funds and accounts for previous funds, and those funds go to the finance department of the FJKM, and then we're able to, the Fruits, Vegetables, Environmental Education Program is able to access funds for doing work. We do get funds from other sources. We're grateful to the Watersheds Foundation as one such source. And then we have a project with the Darwin Initiative, a British government for environmental work. And we have a project with a local foundation in Madagascar. So we do get a little bit of outside funding beyond those.
And the numbers are all on this sheet.
There's a sheet you can pick up and spread widely.
And we had a question from our online audience here, Dan, about like you don't have social media, but what's the best way to get in touch with you, follow your work, all of that?
Elizabeth and I write newsletters, and some of those are simply updates of the work that we are involved with. And so that's at the official Peace USA website. In Madagascar, Facebook is kind of a big thing. And just like everywhere, there's people who do it and people who don't. Elizabeth and I are among the ones who don't. But some of our colleagues are doing it more and more. So we really do need to, tap into that more, because I've already given a case where they have a website. We did a training recently from people all over Madagascar, and they formed their own Facebook group. So they can send pictures and brag about the work they're doing and sort of hold each other to account and provide each other encouragement. So we're doing some of that. You can get our newsletters at our official, just do Dan Elizabeth Turk Peace USA, and that should take you where you can start clicking. And we need to do more of that. Yes, ma'am.
With the overpopulation, is there a good family planning program, and also are there many orphans?
Is there a good family planning program, and are there many orphans? No, there's not a good family planning program. Basically, among our professional colleagues, a lot of our colleagues only have 1 or 2 children. It's not a universal deal, but often the parents who want their kids to go at least as far as they did in education realize that that's quite expensive, and that they'll only be able to get 1 or 2 kids through university. I think that's how people look at it. What was the other part? The
orphans.
The orphans. There are orphanages in Madagascar, but not that many. Kids get taken in by other family members. And that is something that can change drastically if the rate of HIV infection goes as those researchers have predicted. And that is something that needs to be taken into consideration when people start preparing for the possibility of a much ramped up HIV/AIDS epidemic. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious about the seed that was given for hunger response, and I'm curious about where the seed came from.
The seed.
Yeah, you get a beautiful picture with a lot of women holding seeds on their
Yes.
heads. Yeah.
So the funding came from the Presbyterian Hunger Program. We sent the money, we received the money in the capital city. We sent it down to Pastor Souza, who's the Senate president. He went into a local market and bought seeds. What amazed me, because I've been down there, is those seeds are lab.
Pardon?
Lab is the kind of legume. It's a pulse, but it's not one in the top list of pulses grown around the world. It's recognized as one, but the people down south grow lab. So it's important to get them what they do. So in other words, he just went to a wholesaler, bought seeds. He bought, 600 plastic bags, divvied them up with a scale, and then gave them to all the people. That's what happened there.
I didn't understand when you said pulses.
Pulse is another way, a word used for beans and related things like lentils.
Yeah.
Peas like, black eyed peas, those kind of things, they're all pulses. Yeah, sorry. Yes, sir.
It looked like in one photo, the family gathered around their harvest, and it looked like the seeds were peanuts.
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Okay. So peanuts is a common crop.
It is fairly common, and if you know much about peanuts, and I just learned this not too many years ago, that there is a big problem with peanuts, and it's called afloxacin. And it is a poison that's produced when peanuts don't dry well. It's a fungus that produces this toxin. And I can guarantee you most peanuts in Madagascar don't get dried that well. And so recently there has been a collaboration of USAID with a specific project out of the University of Georgia. And they will be coming and working in Madagascar to try to deal with that. But one of the results of that, if you get too much of that toxin, is just stunting. And Madagascar has one of the worst stunting problems in the world. So it makes me wonder if that could be related to that.
Human stunting?
Yes. Children who aren't as tall as they would be if they had better nutrition. What happens is you go and you see a kid, and in your mind, you say, that kid, okay, that kid looks like they're about 4 years old. Then you say, hey, how old are you? It's 6. But they're small, look like they're 4. Yeah. So yeah, stunting's a big issue.
I think that's good. Thank you so much for coming. Back in just a couple weeks to Madagascar. He means it when he says visit. They're wonderful people. The language, the language is very hard. We did not learn very much of it, but it was very, very an amazing trip. So thank you all for coming. There's more food still. Thank you.
Which Dan wants.
Thank you.
See that picture?